In the previous part of the build log, I mentioned that my initial plans for this build had the GPU loop and CPU loop perfectly symmetrical. So this was a bit of a compromise. And initially what I did for the CPU loop was a whole lot of bends in the acrylic tube. So this one has 2 bends. This one basically has 4 bends because it has 3 and then an offset. And when you start to do this many bends in acrylic tube, it almost starts to look like soft tube. It loses that kind of elegant look. And it's very hard to maintain symmetry, even if you put a lot of effort into it. I mean, these tubes would have looked fine, but it just really didn't match the aesthetics of this build. And this is a great example of the fine balance that you can experiment with between too many bends and too many fittings. People often say that we use too many fittings, but I always try to keep a balance. And you'll notice that in the tighter builds, we have to use a lot more. But take a look at how many more fittings I've actually had to use here so that there's only 1 bend in each of these tubes. If you really want that kind of elegant look, and also, I'm doing this due to the symmetry down here, then you should only go for 1-2 bends maximum in hardline. But we have extension fitting, 90-degree dual rotary, 90-degree single, another extension, same thing again, and then 2 90-degree single rotaries up there. That is a lot of fittings compared to just 4 hardline compression fittings, which is what we had with these 2 tubes. And you can see that the aesthetics do match a little bit better now, although, the symmetry would have been nice. I'm about to build the last of the loop in this system. There's just one more length of tube to install. But before I install it, I have to show you around the loop, because to be able to install it, I actually have to install the power supply, which is going to block view to some of the most important parts of this loop, which I really want to show you how I did this, because a lot of people are going to be wondering, because I noticed in the comments on the last video, everyone is expecting me to use soft tube back here, but that is definitely not something that I'm going to do. But you can see it's pretty much all done back here. And this is the benefit of the through panel mods. It really cleans things up. But we're going to have a full detailed look at the loop like we normally would once the build is complete. I'm going to go through all of the fittings and everything. But yeah, you can see what I've done down here. It's just this one length here coming back from the GPUs, which I need to install, which is just going to go straight up from there to there. But I also need to install the rear panel onto the motherboard tray before I can install that length of tube, which is going to have the hard drive and the SSD. And I need to install the power supply, because to install the power supply I have to swing this around here like this and kind of go in sideways with it like that, and then I can finish off the loop and we can fill it. But let's start around the front and have a look at all of the fittings that I've used in both of these loops. So as always, 16mm hardline tube, which means 16mm hardline compression fittings from Bits Power, all black sparkle fittings. You know, you really can't see much around here because we have hidden inlets and outlets for the pump and reservoir combos. But starting with the CPU loop, we have a 40mm extension. So I won't say or cover the through panel fittings because you guys know what they are. But every time I come through a panel, I use another one of the Bits Power through panel fittings. So then I have a 90-degree dual rotary, 90-degree single rotary with a 25mm extension. Same thing coming back out of the CPU. Then I have a 90-degree dual rotary, 90-degree single rotary. For the GPU loop, we have 90-degree single, 15mm extension, 90-degree dual. Same thing on the other side, full symmetry. Parallel configuration, like I always do, between the GPUs, which is actually vital for this configuration. It would not work without it. We can't do this in series. If we did, we'd have to come out of the top of the GPUs. If I were going to do that, I would have put another opening next to this one. But, I mean, what's the point? This is more flow. We have symmetry. It's just cleaner. And I always do parallel because of that. So, let's go from the CPU again. It goes up into the top radiator. Then coming out, I've used a 90-degree dual and a large telescopic fitting, then a 90-degree single, then another 90-degree single there, a 90-degree single, 30mm extension, 90-degree single, and then I've used 90-degree duals for the fill ports. And coming up from here, I've used a male-to-male fitting to connect the T fitting. On one side I have a temp sensor plug, and this was the only place I could put the temp sensors. I had to use T fittings for this because there's no other available ports except on the pump top, which is what I normally use for temp sensors. But because we have the hidden inlet and outlet configuration, I mean, to put the temp sensors here would have really made a mess. They would have had to have gone right on the front, or maybe one of them on the side, but yeah, it just wasn't going to work. I don't want them visible, so T fittings were the only way to go. Then a 90-degree single just there. Now, for the GPU loop, quite a lot of complexity. So yeah, we have the normal Bits Power mini valve connected with a male-to-male, T again with a male-to-male temp sensor plug, 40mm extension, 90-degree single rotary, 90-degree single, 90-degree dual, 50mm extension, and two 90-degree singles to get around and into the top of that 280mm radiator. Coming out the bottom, I have a 30mm extension, 90-degree single. Then I have a mini D plug, a T fitting for the Bits Power mini valve, the drain port, which is at the lowest point. Both of the drain systems are at the lowest points of the loop, which works really well. So, you know, we don't have symmetry for these, which I do normally like to achieve, but these are supposed to be a practical measure. So it's better that they're at the lowest point and that they work properly. With my original loop design for this system, there would have been full symmetry for both of the loops, but yeah, that's something we couldn't do, as I've mentioned. So 90-degree single, 90-degree dual, 90-degree dual, 10mm extension, and those fittings all need a clean and lots of finger marks. Then I've used a 90-degree single, 50mm extension, 15mm extension, and a 90-degree dual. Slow. I'm going to try to get it all the way to the top.
You have to pour it open, eh?
Yeah, but I'll just set this here. I'll go slow. Just let me know if...
How far you want to go?
As far as we can, because there's still so much air in the loop. But let me know if it starts to come up into here. Okay, let's do it. So power button doesn't work yet. Can't do that.
Monitor or something.
We have to use... Top fans are working. Okay, that's fine. It's just always does that on first boot with the Asus motherboard. Okay, we don't have the rear fans. That's fine. That's probably just the extension cable isn't plugged in properly.
Could be, yeah.
Fob works working nicely. That one isn't though. Top one is. Pumps are going. There we go. We have posts.
Lots of cables.
You can see the LED poster running through post there. Couple of minor issues. I bet you the extension to the 280mm radiator fans has just come unplugged. That's why both fans aren't working. It's either come unplugged up here. Okay, we have boot. We have post.
There we go.
There we go. You can see as soon as the SLR bridge comes alive, that's it. We have post. Alright, I have to let Sven go. He's made like $1 million today, so.
Oh yeah, margaritas in a short while. Peace out, boss.